Today I'm in the garage building. I'm working on some plant stands that I'm going to be sharing on the blog later this month, but I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to introduce you to my newest toy. Now this video is sponsored by Kreg because we are introducing you to the new Kreg 320 series pocket hole jig. So I'm going to show you how to use this and all of its cool features while assembling these plant stands that I'm working on. So inside of this again is the 320 series. Now they do have a 310, which is simplified version of this. And I love this as a pocket hole jig for any beginning DIYer because the price is so right. And this is what your pocket hole jig looks like. Now, if you have been following along for any significant period of time, you know I love my pocket holes. I use them on so many projects because they really give me great professional results, but they're really easy to use and super great for a beginner DIYer or even advanced. I mean, all my cabinetry I do with my pocket hole jigs because it's super easy. And I love this one because it is small and compact. I mean, the whole 320 fits in this little tiny case. But it's going to give you the exact same amazing pocket holes that the bigger systems would give. So I'm going to show you. Now this is the jig, and it's actually got 3 pieces to it. And with just a little bit of work, it snaps apart. I'm hoping it gets a little easier as I keep moving, but I haven't snapped it apart too many times. And it actually comes apart into 3 pieces. Now the center piece is just a spacer, and then you have 2 of pocket hole jigs, and these can be used independently. So if you're working on a larger piece, you can do them independently, or if you're doing a smaller piece, you can even just snap these 2 together. So on my stand, say I've got these 1x2 boards, you're going to want 2 pocket holes close together. So when you snap them together, it's going to give you perfect spacing for a smaller board like this. So the other thing about this that I love is how simple it is, I'm going to put this spacer back in, to use it without any other tools really necessary except for your drill and your impact driver. So it comes with a little spacer to help you determine thickness of wood. If you're not used to it, you think, oh, this is a 1x2 board, it's going to be an inch thick. Well, it's not. Surprise, it's 3/4 of an inch thick if you didn't already know. But the little spacer will help you. You can just hold it right here, and it tells you it's 3/4 of an inch, or 1.5 inch, or 1/2 inch. These are your standard size thicknesses that you're going to be able to use this pocket hole jig for. And then my favorite feature is the fact that on all of those measurements are also marked on the bit, and you use your spacer to quickly loosen up the stop block and adjust this to fit whatever thickness of wood. So we're going to put that at 3/4 of an inch thick and drill some pocket holes. So now that I've got my bit set to 3/4 of an inch, I'm just going to put it in my drill. Now I like using an impact driver and a drill. That way I don't have to switch out bits. If you don't have both, you can switch out. But for now, we'll put my drill bit with my 3/4 of an inch stop collar set, and then I'm going to put the driving bit into my impact driver. And this is your standard Kreg squared top. Now the set does come with some of the most used screws there is. So we've got, these ones are a blue coat. They're great for indoor outdoor. This is a 2.5 inch length, which is perfect for 1x boards, which we're going to be using for the top of our little plant stand. It also comes with some 1.25 inch, and these are just indoor. They're not blue coat. And this is what we're going to use to assemble the base of our stand. So I think we're all ready to drill some holes. I'm going to move this aside. Now I've already pre-cut my wood, and like I said, I'm going to be sharing this later on the blog, so definitely make sure to subscribe there so you can check out that later. But we are going to start by putting pocket holes in the back of the front and back skirt aprons to attach them to the legs. Now, because this is a 1x3 board, I'm going to use my jig with the spacer. And in order to make sure I have the right depth, it's the depth on the pocket hole, but it makes it so that this sets further or closer to it to give you the right depth. We need to make sure we adjust this. So mine are currently both set, and you can see because it's white, If you don't have it set, it's going to be clear through it. So to reset this to a different thickness, there's a little thing on the back you press and you slide and then it clicks in. And you know it's in because it doesn't move until you press that again. So we've made sure both of those are set to 3/4. Now this apron does have a little bit of an angle to it. It's a 5-degree angle. It's going to be totally fine to just press this up against it, and it's going to give me the perfect pocket holes every time. Now we do have another little handy tool with this jig. Is a clamp holder, I guess is what we would call it. And this just presses right into the jig right here. And the great thing about it is you can put your face clamp in. Now this is a Kreg face clamp. And we squeeze it to open it, and then we'll squeeze it to close it. And then it'll kind of just hold on to it. So when I'm done, I can just pick it up and move to the next board and drill the next pocket hole. So that's going to make it really, really easy. Now you do not have to have a Kreg clamp. So I'll show you the Kreg clamp on the first one, and the second one, I'll show you how to do it with a different clamp. So that easy. I've clamped it on. It does have a non-stick surface on the back, so it makes it so it doesn't move around a lot when you're clamping. I mean, this is nice and secure with my clamp, and everything is set properly. So let's drill a couple holes. Okay, you're going to press the drill bit in until it hits the edge of the stop collar, and there's my perfect pocket hole. Okay, I love it. So now we're going to do the other side. So this time, let's do it with a different clamp. So, I'm going to use just a nice little bar clamp here. It's not even really a bar clamp, it's just a very simple clamp. And line that up perfectly, give it a good squeeze, and we're ready to drill again. Okay, so now my first apron is ready to attach to my legs, and I just realized I'm not wearing my safety glasses. I'm going to go grab those, and then we'll finish out this project. Safety is very important. Always, always wear your safety glasses when you're doing any sort of DIYs. So I apologize that I didn't have those on. Okay, so now we are going to attach these perfectly drilled pocket holes. I do like to always use a little bit of wood glue, so let me grab that. The wood glue is going to make everything just attach beautifully. So, got my wood glue, clean off the top there, and I'm going to grab my 2 legs. And we're going to attach them, oops, wrong side, this way, so that my angles are correct, because I do have that little bit of an angle. Now, when attaching these, you definitely want to use a pair of clamps, and I'll show you a couple different ways you can clamp this. I'm just going to spread that glue around. So one thing I do like to do when I have this table here is using just the face clamp. I can get a nice solid clamp, make sure the top is nice and level, and then we can attach our screws. So because we're using 3/4 inch material, we're going to use the 1 1/4 inch screws. And you can always find exactly what screws you're supposed to use on the Kreg website. And it's just as easy as sliding that in until you hear a little bit of resistance. Perfect. And that's why I like the impact driver. I find it's easy to know exactly when it hits. And there's my first seam. So I'm going to show you another way to clamp it. Without the face clamp, you can also use this one here. Move some stuff out of my way. This one is for 90 degrees, but I also find it can work for clamping it like this if you do not have the face clamp. However, I would recommend the face clamp. If you can only afford a couple clamps, I would get one face clamp and one of these 90-degree clamps. And this one you twist, it's not auto, and then you would set it. and you can secure it that way too. So you do have options with clamps, and if you don't have either of those, you could always use this clamp here, but I find that this one doesn't hold it as nice as the Kreg clamp, so sometimes it will push off that way when I am securing. So for doing flat things like this, I definitely would recommend the face clamp. It's going to make it the easiest, but I did a lot of woodworking without any clamps, so it is possible to do it without. Okay, so we're going to attach this one nice and secure, and 2 more screws. Okay, so there is the start of my project, and these are going to be fantastic little plant stands for all of the plants I am acquiring in my house. I want to show you, before I finish up the rest of the stand, how easy it is to now switch to doing a thicker material. So the top of my plant stand is going to be made out of 2x4s. I just am using scraps up that I've had in my garage, trying to clear it out. And so I got 3 2x4s, and I've assembled them how I want them to go, made my marks on the top so I can make sure that they all sit together nice. And I'll just flip those over. So what I'm going to do is, on the 2 outside ones, I'm going to put a couple pocket holes on the side so we can screw them all together. So we're going to need to reset the pocket hole here and here. Okay, so now I've just moved it all the way down. We'll double check it. I happen to know that 2x are 1.5 inches thick, but always a good idea to double check. And there we go. We see that it is right there in the 1.5 inch area. And so now I forgot which direction I want to put those on. I marked it all up. So now when you put these on, we're going to actually do 3 here. And we're going to pull this apart and show you how to do it without it being all hooked together. It always looks a little weird when you are working with a thicker material because it hangs off the edge. But by the time your bit actually hits the material, it's going to be where it's supposed to be. So don't be worried about that. And we're just going to clamp this. I have to do it this way so I can attach it easily. A couple inches in from the edge. Now before we go, we need to make sure we adjust our bit as well. That's one of the most important things, is to remember to adjust both your jig as well as your bit to the new thickness of material. So we'll move this down to where it says 1.5 inches. And once that's in my circle, I'll tighten it up. Put this back in my drill, and now we can drill for the thicker material. Now that is wiggling a little bit. I'm going to clamp it with my thicker clamp. That's giving me a much stronger clamp, and I think that's going to work better. There we go. Okay, so there we've got one. Now we could set up the other 2, and let's do that. Just don't know if I'm going to be able to reach around it as easily, but you can set them up 2 at a time because we have 2. And I'm just going to leave the center on that. Oh, yeah, I'm not going to be able to attach them both. If I was on the edge of my table, I would be able to reach around better. But we'll just do this one to start. There we go. And don't be afraid of the blue shavings. Blue sawdust that you get when you're first working with a new Kreg product, and it's okay because this has your steel center here, and that is going to make it so no matter how long you have this jig, you're still going to get really good results with that. I know I've had my K4 system for probably about 4.5 years now, and it still works today as well as it did on the first day I got it. And I no longer get my blue sawdust. So make sure that one is set for 1.5 inches well before I clamp it down. Now we can secure this with the thicker screws, and I'm going to make sure I'm lining everything up. I had all my marks made before. Whoops, right there. And we're going to use a little bit of glue again. And because I have a little bit bigger, I'm going to need even the bigger clamp for that. I'm going to clamp it that way. It's going to allow me to keep those two pieces nice and level. But I'm also still going to use my face clamp to keep the faces nice and secure. Now, you can use the 2.5-inch screws that came with it, but I'm actually going to grab, and I happen to have these. Now, that's the other great thing is if you already have screws from other Kreg jigs, it's fine. You can use the exact same screws that you would use with any of the other jigs with the new one. So we're just going to drive that in until we get a little resistance. Now I'm just going to finish up my project, let you guys watch. And there you go. With just an afternoon of work, I was able to make a plant stand out of some scraps of wood or inexpensive wood. And now it just needs a good sanding. So make sure to check out the Kreg Pocket Hole Series 300. I think you're going to really like it for any of your DIYs. And then make sure to come check out my website, housefulhandmade.com, where I share lots more build plans and fun DIYs for the home.